Hello students, today we are going to read and understand the second chapter of your English book Moments, The Adventures of Toto. This story is written by Ruskin Bard, who was an Indian writer, and this story is about a baby monkey, a little monkey whose name was Toto. Here the writer has described about how a little monkey was bought by his grandfather from a Tonga driver. So, I am going to read the chapter first and I will explain you, and also I will tell the meaning of the difficult words. So, what you got to do is make a note of all the difficult words and also try to write the meanings. If there is anything which is left, you can always contact me. Grandfather bought Toto from a Tonga driver for the sum of 5 rupees. Like I said, the writer's grandfather bought Toto, who was a little monkey, from a Tonga driver. Tonga driver, you must have seen the Tonga in Hindi, it's pronounced like Tanga. So, he bought that monkey for 5 rupees. The Tonga driver used to keep the little red monkey tied to a feeding trough. Feeding trough is a place where you feed animals. And the monkey looked so out of place there that grandfather decided he would add the little fellow to his private zoo. So, like I said earlier, this story is about a little monkey, a baby monkey who was bought by the writer's grandfather. His grandfather had a habit of enjoying keeping animals and birds as pet. So, he decided to keep this baby monkey in his private zoo. Toto was a pretty monkey. Pretty means lovely, beautiful, you could say. His bright eyes sparkled with mischief. His bright eyes. Now, the writer is describing the physical appearance of a monkey. You must have seen monkeys. You must have seen the old monkeys and also baby monkeys. So, here the writer is describing his bright eyes sparkled with mischief. Mischief, when they do naughty things, they beneath deep set eyebrows, and his teeth, which were a pearly white. Pearly white look like white pearls, were very often displayed in a smile that frightened the life out of elderly Anglo-Indian ladies, but his hands looked dried up as though they had been pickled in the sun for many years. So, like I said, the writer is describing about how a monkey looks like. About the here in this chapter, he is describing about the baby monkey, how his face looked like. Yet his fingers were quick and wicked, and his tail, while adding to his good looks, grandfather believed a tail would add to anyone's good looks. So, what his father believed that a tail could add beautifulness of anyone. Well, you can imagine that is not true, but here he is talking about the baby monkey. What he is saying, his fingers were quick and wicked, and his tail, while adding to his good looks, grandfather believed a tail would add to anyone's good looks, also served as a third hand. So, how a monkey behaves or acts, he also uses his tail like hand. He could use it to hang from a branch. You must have seen monkeys hanging from one branch to another branch. So they use their tails also. And it was capable of scooping up and delicacy that might be out of reach of his hands. Scooping up means like picking or taking up something. So they use their tails to catch or take or pick something, and delicacy that might be out of reach of his hands. So if they cannot reach their hands, what they do, they use their tails to pick that delicacy. Delicacy means here is like a choice. It's also means expensive food. Grandmother always first when grandfather brought home some new birds or animals. So now the writer is talking about his grandmother. She always objected. She never liked, she didn't like his grandfather bringing animals or birds at home. So she always created fuss about it. So it was decided that Toto's presence should be kept as sacred from her until she was in a particularly good mood. So because they knew that the grandmother was not going to accept it, so they wanted to keep Toto secret until they found her in a good mood. Grandfather and I put him away in a little closet opening into my bedroom wall, where he was tied securely, or so we thought, to a peg fastened into the wall. So like they decided that they were not going to disclose it to the grandmother until she is in good mood. So they decided to put him in the writer's bedroom, and they tied up with a peg. Peg means a pin or hook onto a wall. A few hours later, when grandmother and I came back to release Toto, grandfather and I came back to release Toto, we found that the walls, which had been covered with some ornamental paper chosen by grandfather, now stood out as a naked brick and plaster. So what happened? They tried to hide Toto from grandmother, and they tied up with a peg, a pin, a hook, you could say. But when they come back to release Toto, what they found, that he was not there. Toto was not there. So what had he done? He wrenched from its socket the peg in the wall had been wrenched from its socket, and my school blazer, which had been hanging there, was in shreds. I wondered what grandmother would say, but grandfather didn't worry. He seemed pleased with Toto's performance. So after they found out that Toto was not there, he had escaped basically from that room. He had wrenched from its socket the peg where he was tied up. He was thinking, the writer was thinking what the grandmother would say, but the grandfather, he wasn't worried. He seemed even pleased with Toto's performance. So what he said, he's clever, said grandfather. Given time, I'm sure he could have tied the torn pieces of your blazer into a rope and made his escape from the window. So now his grandfather is thinking that how clever the baby monkey is. So he's thinking what he must have done to make his escape from that room. So he's saying that he must have used the blazer, the pieces of blazer, he must have made it like a rope and he must have escaped from the window. His presence in the house is still a secret. Toto was now transferred to a big cage in the servants' quarters, where a number of grandfather's pets lived with very sociably together: a tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel, and for a while my pet goat. But the monkey wouldn't allow any of his companions to sleep at night. So grandfather, who had to leave Dehradun next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur, decided to take him along. Now, as we know that his presence in the house was kept sacred. They was not going to tell the grandmother until she was in good mood. So still this was a secret, and Toto was now transferred to a big cage. So they put him in a bigger cage in the servants' quarters. So they put him in a cage in the servant quarter, where a number of grandfather pets lived very sociably. Sociably means like they don't fight with each other, they eat together, they live together. So that's kind of environment he's talking about. So what they were? There was tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel. A tame squirrel, like a squirrel who's been taught to do something. Taming, you must have heard this word, taming an animal, something like that. For a while, my pet goat, but the monkey wouldn't allow any of his companions to sleep at night. So this baby monkey, he wouldn't allow any of his companions to sleep at night. So he was not ready, he was not going to sleep with his companions. So what grandfather decided to take him with him, because he had to leave for Saharanpur to collect his pension next day. Unfortunately, I could not accompany grandfather on that trip, but he told me about it afterwards. A big black canvas kit bag was provided for Toto. This, with some straw at the bottom, became his new abode. Abode means a place where you can live. You can also say home, a residence. So before they left, or before his grandfather left for Saharanpur, he put Toto in a big black canvas kit bag. So there was a bag made by canvas, and they put Toto in there. They put some straw on the bottom. When the bag was closed, there was no escape. Toto could not get his hands through the opening, and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his way through. So it was, you could say that it was quite safe, and the baby monkey was not able to go out or jump out himself. So it was safe and secured. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump into the air, an exhibition that attracted a curious crowd of onlooker on Dehradun railway platform. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump into the air. So what the writer is describing here, because his grandfather told him about the trip, and the writer was not able to accompany his grandfather that time, but he told him later on. So what writer is talking about? His efforts to get out from that bag had the effect of making the bag roll. So, he could only get out by rolling the bag on the floor, or sometimes occasionally jump into the air. An exhibition that attracted a curious crowd. When the crowd of people have curiosity to see something, of onlookers on Dehradun railway platform. Toto remained in the bag as far as Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile means a mechanical gate where only one person can go or come. So, Toto remained in the bag till they reached Saharanpur. But while grandfather was producing his ticket, when he got out of the train and he was trying to go out of the railway station through the turnstile is a mechanical gate, I said, Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. So, what happened? When the ticket collector was checking everybody's ticket, and at the time when he was checking grandfather's ticket, suddenly the baby monkey, he just like shown his head out of that bag, and he gave a grin. A grin means like smiling broadly, like showing all the teeth at the same time. So, what happened basically, that ticket collector got shocked, he was surprised, and the poor man was taken aback. He got surprised, the ticket collector, but with great presence of mind and much to grandfather's annoyance, he said, "Sir, you have a dog with you, you will have to pay for it accordingly." So, when the ticket collector found that there is an animal, he thought that there was a dog in the bag. So, he said to grandfather, "Sir, there is a dog with you and you have to pay for it accordingly." Students, that is all for the day, and I hope you have noted difficult words and meanings. If you did not understand anything, you can always contact me. Thank you very much. Have a good day.